Good morning, everybody. It's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Jesse Montano here, Guerilla Sports Daily. And this episode of Guerilla Sports Daily is brought to you by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payment. Go to trustedamerican.com to see how much money they can save you today. Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Jesse Montano here. It's an interesting week around the world of sports because you've got the NHL officially on their holiday break. The NFL has multiple games scheduled for tomorrow. The NBA, multiple games scheduled for tomorrow. But then also you come right out of Christmas and you are right into a critically important week 17 in the NFL. And the NHL approaches its halfway point. Once that Christmas break ends, the NBA coming off the NBA Cup, which talked about it on here. I believe it was last week. The Milwaukee Bucks raise a banner for it, just like the LA Lakers did last year. And yes, there are reports swirling around that the league requires that the teams do this to commemorate winning the NBA Cup. Whatever. I don't love it. But point being, that's now over in the NBA. You are transitioning to the midpoint of the season. We hit the Christmas season. The whole point I'm making with all this is the NHL takes a break, acknowledges, hey, we're taking a break over the holiday. NBA, NFL embrace the holiday as here's an opportunity for eyeballs and a big marquee event. But point being, NFL winding down. We are going to talk about implications for the Denver Broncos this weekend, of course. NHL, it's a nice reflection point as there are no games. And NBA, it feels like, again, you're reaching out midway point. Teams are starting to separate. You're starting to get a clearer picture of who are the playoff contenders and who are not. And that's where we're going to start. We are going to start with the Denver Nuggets because they played last night. They play tomorrow on Christmas Day, both against the Phoenix Suns. And they just kind of continue to be a team that I'm confused by. Denver Nuggets, a good outing last night, 117 to 90 to knock off the Phoenix Suns at home. And you liked a lot of what you saw. Good play from Michael Porter Jr., whose name is swirling around the rumor mill. You liked what you got, of course, from Nikola Jokic. Not a triple-double for Jokic last night. But look, this team just continues. I'm actually wildly interested to see what happens with the Denver Nuggets this week, playing the Phoenix Suns back-to-back. We have seen such a Jekyll and Hyde act from the Nuggets so far this year where they play one team really well, win by a large margin, run the score up. You get, contributions off the bench. Jokic plays well. Jamal Murray, who was unavailable last night, will be unavailable again tomorrow in Phoenix. Again, just kind of underscores a little bit, excuse me, what they were able to do last night. No Jamal Murray. And you like the minutes you got from your bench. You like what you saw from MPJ. Again, 24 points for him. But what version shows up tomorrow night in Phoenix? Is it going to be the version that we saw here last night? Or is it going to be the version that lost to the Washington Wizards about a week and a half ago? The Wizards have picked up an additional win since that moment. So they now sit at 4 wins, but the Denver Nuggets gave them their 3rd of the season. So what are you going to get? And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this Denver Nuggets team pulls up against a team that they really did. They took care of business last night. You win by 27 points. You're comfortable. You're without Jamal Murray. That's what this team can look like. They currently sit 5th place in the Western Conference, 6.5 points back of the lead there. And like I talked about last week, that doesn't feel insurmountable for this team at times, especially when you've got a guy like Nikola Jokic. But it just feels like you can't get off the roller coaster with this group. And I think playing the same team back-to-back is going to be an interesting test for them, because if you can come out tomorrow with another really strong performance, that's something that you can start to build on. You guys have heard me talk about it with the Colorado Avalanche, that they've been able to build on a lot of things this year. In talking with Liv Moods and Ruben around the office, that's one thing that the Nuggets have struggled to do, is string together quality performances for any amount of extended period of time. And in addition to that, you see them play one of the league's top teams really well. And then, not to be overly harping on what happened with the Wizards in the past, you're moving on from it. The team has acknowledged it's a bad game. Michael Malone, horrible game. But those are the types of losses that, as you get later into a season, you think about that come back when you are jockeying for seeding, trying to get into the playoffs, trying to win a division, whatever it may be. Those are the types of losses that you look back over the course of a season and say, that's something that cost them. That's a game you should have never lost. And this Nuggets team still just struggling to figure out who it is, what this version of them are. And they get to be on the big national stage tomorrow. So that does add another element to what I'm talking a little bit about here, of who shows up. Who shows up on national television tomorrow for the Denver Nuggets against the Phoenix Suns? Which version of the Nuggets are we going to get? We will be all over that one for you guys tomorrow on Christmas Day. Moving on, Denver Broncos, another team not playing tomorrow on Christmas, but golly jeepers, gee whiz, do they have a big weekend ahead of them, facing the Cincinnati Bengals. Denver Broncos let a golden opportunity slip through their fingers last week, taking on the LA Chargers with an opportunity to clinch a playoff spot for the first time in 8 years. And the Denver Broncos let it all come unraveled in the second half. I made the argument that it maybe looked like the pressure and the moment got to a young Denver Broncos team just a little bit too much, a team that's still learning how to win. I've talked a lot about the Denver Broncos this year, and this is a team that I think Broncos fans can feel true, genuine optimism about for the first time in a long time. This is a team that I feel like is actually building something in the right direction in a way that they hadn't been since Peyton Manning left for the last 8+ years. It just felt like every year they were doing what they could to try to get a winning record, get into the playoffs, and just meet some fan expectations along the way without doing anything meaningful, without moving the needle on building your team in any kind of real way, without getting any closer to your goal of contending for a Super Bowl championship. A lot of that was the rotating cast of quarterbacks and coaches, and that's what it feels like you finally have here in Denver. That I'm not saying that either of them are the 10-year fix. We'll wait to see, but you feel really good about what Bo Nix, Sean Payton are building. You guys have heard me talk about it on here before. I do think it is Groundhog's Day for Denver Broncos media every year. Any little bit of optimism, any little bit of, hey, this is going the right direction, immediately goes to, this team's a Super Bowl contender. This team could win the Super Bowl right now. When Case Keenum came in, it was nice steadying presence to get this team back to the Super Bowl. Then when Russell Wilson came in, it was, here's the Hall of Fame guy to get them back to the Super Bowl. Now Bo Nix has had a really promising start to his career, And you're already starting to hear the murmuring of, finally, they're back to Super Bowl contention. This team could go on a run to the Super Bowl this year. Sure, any given Sunday, right? Any team could go on a run. The Broncos got to get in first, and it did look like last week the prospect of being able to clinch with a double-digit point lead got in their heads a little bit, maybe started looking too far ahead. Now, the Broncos are practicing both today and tomorrow in preparation for the game against Cincinnati. Bo Nix mentioned last week at the podium after the game against Cincinnati that the team was so fired up that they wanted to go play against Cincy right now. We have heard Bo Nix talk about this in the past, saying the team wants to practice right now after the game, coming off of a loss, saying we want to get right back in the saddle. And the Broncos responded really well. So you do wonder, how do they respond here? They're saying the right things. They're doing the right things. But I do start to wonder a little bit. Practicing Christmas Eve, practicing Christmas Day. Is it in their heads? Are they now thinking about it too much? The term we use in hockey is, are they gripping the stick too tight? You do start to wonder a little bit. Are you going to over prepare for this game? The Cincinnati Bengals are a team that's been to the Super Bowl. This has been a struggle of a year for them, but their playoff hopes are still alive, and they can only keep them alive with a win this weekend. Will a slightly more veteran, experienced team be able to come out and push the Broncos around a little bit? And if the Bengals can come out and get on them early, how do the Broncos respond? These are interesting games, these last two games for the Broncos, not just because they're necessary for the Broncos to get into the playoffs, but they're also going to tell you a lot about, if they are able to get into the playoffs, how they might handle themselves when the lights get brighter, when the moment gets bigger, when the stage is more grand. How does this young team, who looks like they just might have a chance to break out of this rebuild cycle and get into the playoffs? And I'm not even saying they'll win a game, but at least make some noise. And they're going to be a tough out if they can get in. But they've got to get there first. And like I said, I think these two games are going to be very telling about what we are going to see from the Denver Broncos if they're able to get into the playoffs, how they handle themselves these 2 weeks. You got the Bengals tomorrow, and then you got the Chiefs the week after. Now, if you're the Denver Broncos, you are hoping for the Kansas City Chiefs to win tomorrow on Christmas, as that would lock up the AFC for them. And that probably means that they're sitting a bunch of guys, including Patrick Mahomes, going into that final week, maybe giving for a little bit of an easier game for the Broncos, who did lose by the hair on their chinny chin to the Kansas City Chiefs earlier this year. Broncos on the practice field today and tomorrow in preparation for their game on Sunday against the Bengals. The entire city of Denver will be watching that one, holding their breath. Should be a fun one there on Sunday. Do want to remind you guys about our great friends over at Landmark Lincoln. We were able to stop into Landmark this last week. Unbelievable experience. Beautiful cars, including the 2024 Lincoln Corsair GT plug-in hybrid. Head on over to landmarklincoln.com to check out the latest offers and incentives, including incredible tax incentives to end the year on the all-new Corsair GT plug-in hybrids. Go to landmarklincoln.com or stop into the #1 Lincoln dealer in Colorado to see if you qualify for no payments for up to 90 days. Again, that's landmarklincoln.com, or stop in at the corner of Broadway and Bellevue and see why they've been Colorado's trusted Lincoln dealer since 1911. I'm telling you guys, got to see those Corsair GTs up close in person last week. They are absolutely beautiful. Really, all of them, the Nautilus, the Navigator, just beautiful cars. Go check them out over at landmarklincoln.com. Let's move on here. Buffs, just a quick primer for you guys. Buffs, BYU at the Alamo Bowl on Saturday. And you know what? I actually just realized I was saying the Broncos matchup is on Sunday. It's not. We got a football doubleheader here in Colorado on Saturday. Broncos will be taking on the Bengals in that huge game on Saturday, not Sunday. I apologize. But Buffs, Alamo Bowl against BYU. Guerilla Sports will be there bringing you guys all the sights and sounds from the field, from the post game, from locker room, all that great stuff as the Buffs look to win a bowl game for the first time in a long time. It is going to be interesting. Both Travis Hunter and Shadur Sanders are set to play in the Alamo Bowl, despite being projected to potentially go as high as 1 and 2 in the upcoming NFL draft. We will see how many reps they get, how many snaps they get. I know Deion Sanders is saying, we don't take games off. We're here to win, this, that, and the other. You're going to be looking out for those players' futures, their careers. It's going to be interesting to see how much they play, if they play into the second half, things like that. But Guerilla Sports will be there. We actually will have a fun show coming up for you guys on Saturday. Not all that dissimilar to what we did last Thursday, Guerilla Sports Central, when we had Broncos, Nuggets, Avs all going this weekend. Like I said, football doubleheader. We're going to have Buffs, Broncos, Nuggets all going. So we'll be back at you guys with another fun event for you on Saturday. The game really doesn't mean anything for the Buffs. It's the Alamo Bowl. It really doesn't matter. It's one extra game that doesn't mean anything, has no implications. But it's fun to see the Buffs in a bowl game and being able to enjoy a little bit of success that they earned this year big time. And Deion Sanders and his team has proved a lot of people wrong. And they get to go flex that a little bit this weekend. We're going to round things out today, guys. Christmas Eve with a little bit of talking about the Colorado Avalanche, who, like I did mention, are on the Christmas break. Nothing yesterday, today, tomorrow, or the day after before being back in action on the 27th. That's Friday against the Utah Hockey Club. That game will be in Utah. Quick one-off before returning back home. The Avs have finally survived the gauntlet of the schedule that saw them on the road for, I believe it was 27 of 34 days or something like that away from home. When they get back from that game on Friday, it'll be 14 of 18 games that were on the road. Just an absolute gauntlet. And the Avs have not only come out unscathed, but they've actually gained ground. They hold a lot of, they've played a lot of extra games, about 3 games extra for a lot of the teams that are around them in the standings. But they have put themselves comfortably and alone in third place in the Central Division, 2 points back of the Minnesota Wild. And they are boasting a league best .935 save percentage since Scott Wedgwood went in Buffalo in relief of Alexander Georgiev. The Avalanche are getting the best goaltending in the league, and that is playing a large part in why the Avs have been able to turn things around. We've talked about it so much this year, both right here on this show as well as on Guerilla Sports Off Ice, which we will have one more last episode before Christmas coming up for you guys here in about 30 minutes. Megan Angley and I have posts out on Twitter right now for a mailbag. We're going to do a quick 30-minute mailbag for you guys this morning for Avs, so go get your questions in over there on Twitter. If you haven't already, I'll drop that on Blue Sky as well here in just a minute. But we've talked about it a lot. This team has done a lot of good things this season. They've played well despite the injuries, and you weren't getting the stops. You weren't getting the saves when you needed them, and they are now. And it's just complimenting of what the Avs are doing really well so far this season. And you can see those results translating directly onto the ice right now. The Avs, like I said, you went into the Christmas break really feeling good about where you're at, knowing that there's still a lot of work to do, knowing that other teams have games in hand on you. So, you're not completely out of the woods yet. But given where you were about 2 weeks ago and how you were feeling maybe around that locker room, still knowing how much time you had out on the road, not really having much confidence in what was happening in net, seeing where you were in the standings, kind of constantly popping in and out of the playoff picture, you've really got to be feeling good sitting on this Christmas break right now if you're the Colorado Avalanche. And then a nice, finally, what has been a hyper-compressed schedule so far to this point. The Avs will play 1 game in 7 days. Right now throughout this stretch, a much needed break for a team that is banged up, injured, tired, worn out. Yes, they are building a little bit of momentum, but this is a much welcomed break for this Colorado Avalanche team. Guys, that is going to be it for this morning. A little bit of a shorter show for you. But like I said, 30 minutes. We will be jumping on Guerilla Sports Off Ice. Megan Angley and I will be answering your questions on all things Avs, NHL. So go stopping over there. But more than anything, guys, have a very Merry Christmas. Have a great holiday. Enjoy the next couple days with friends, family, all of that good stuff. And we'll be back at it here as we head into the weekend over at Guerilla Sports. Thank you all so much. We'll talk to you here in about 30 minutes. Guerilla Sports Off Ice. We'll see you there.